The Dutch Council for Social Development has published a number of advisory reports in recent years on the conditions for more diversity in society. Back to Basics is the name of one report for 2010. Stepping Back is looking forward from 2013. In the fact sheet, Forms of Diversity, 6 principles for the social domain, the Dutch Council for Social Development translates some of the points made in this publication into 6 guiding principles and outlines, the tenets for a society in which people work together to solve shared problems. Diversity has the standard for society, the second one, organizing solidarity in communities, the third, translating ideals into action, the fourth, letting go means letting in, the fifth, guarding against homogeneity, and the sixth, more constitutional democracy, less welfare state. We can find an English translation of this fact sheet, and then we'll provide to you all, and it will be on ECNAIS website, the link to go through it. I will just mention some of the headlines, because by doing so, I hope to offer you a broader perspective on the theme of our conference. Historically, Dutch society is not organized along the lines of central governments steering and policy planning. There is a long tradition of the people doing a great deal from themselves. A good example of our internationally well-known unique system of constitutional freedom of education. Almost 70% of all the primary and secondary schools in the Netherlands are independent schools, equally funded by the government as public schools. But creating and recreating a society which resolves social issues itself does not happen automatically. And that society will not function unless a number of conditions are met. The decision by the government to step back stems from 3 problems that are manifesting themselves within the welfare state. The most important is growing uniformity. Government finance, with all its procedures and protocols, tenders and top-down control, means that public service ultimately all begin to look alike. They all tend to conform to the requirements of the governmental subsidy framework, rather than staying true in their own chosen mission. We are moving from an homogenizing public sector towards an heterogenizing civil society, towards a situation which people have a greater say in the organization of their own society. Civil society generates diversity based on plurality, not equality based on universality. Citizens' initiatives are preferred because they do something different from what the government can achieve. They tap into and build upon the plurality of diversity in society and the preference of citizens and groups of citizens. They have the potential to deliver higher perceived quality for those they serve. Direct solidarity is individual, something about which people decide from themselves. It is an expression of commonality with others, stemming from people's own convictions and not from the government. Direct solidarity is the solidarity that arises from within communities. By each making a contribution in their own way, people can learn about the interests and needs of the others. The narrow self-interests of the individuals is thus broadened to an enlightened self-interest as part of a community and generic reciprocity. Discontent can also be seen sometimes as something constructive, as is untapped reservoirs of energy in the society. The trick is to look beneath the discontent, to distill ideas and future ambitions from it, and thus to make use of this energy within society. This can be achieved in social discontent is seen not as an end point, but as a starting point for a discussion. Discontent masks more than just people concerns. Those ideals, motivations, nuances and drives need to be raised from the undercurrent into the mainstream. Society will not organize things in the same way as the government does. People will do things differently and will express their own values and choices in civil society organizations and other associational forms. Civil society organizations have to bend at different times to the frameworks set by government, financial, legal, qualitative. When the dependence on those frameworks becomes very great, it is difficult for organizations to escape from the direction set by those frameworks. Many public sectors have become increasingly tied to the state, with the government acting as a financer, a supervisor, a framework setter. This makes it even more difficult for organizations to make their own choices heard and to stand for their own motives and masses. There is a risk of situation developing of survival of the fittest rather than survival of the fittest. I will not then be the organization that best meet the wishes for their customers or clients or stakeholders that succeed, but those that adapt best to the frameworks set by the financier, the inspector, or the monitor. This requires that governments let go of the expectations that civil society will produce the same things as the government. They will have to shift their focus away from providing, zorgen voor, to facilitating, zorgen dat. Apologies for my bad German. At the same time, it will require that people in society translate their ideals into actions for the public cause. Civil society organizations, large and small, will have to act from the basis of their self-determined mission and so secure legitimacy for their own target groups. Alliance with other private actors will then be more logical than a focus on the government. There will be a strong preference for and belief in central coordination and planning. There is a tendency to be less trusting of a spontaneous structure which is based on a variety of vectors and initiatives. While this spontaneous structure is flexible and adaptable, it is also unpredictable. The relationship between market, state, and society will remain the subject of debate in the years ahead. The necessary spending cuts of governments will give an added dimension to the debate. At the same time, the prospect of more society extends beyond this short-term view. A society marked by diversity needs a form of service delivery in the social domain which reflects that diversity. It is then reasonable to assume that solving shared problems will be less successfully achieved via bureaucratic means than through the development of private forces, both profit-fit basis business and non-profit civil society. ECNAIS works already for more than 25 years as a network of private education organizations strongly embedded in civil society. We function as a living knowledge center for sharing ideas, expertise and experiences about values and freedom of parental choice and freedom of education. Diversity in daily schools life is the key word for all of us. It is all about respecting differences between mindsets and philosophical, pedagogical and religious ideas as inspiring values for independent schools. It is an enormous challenge to unify our common efforts in such a way that speaking into one voice is not being felt as a threat for diversity in education, but as a stimulus to solve and explore diversity also in new forms for a near future. This is in short the means that the theme of ECNAIS seminar is about. As always, we started just with an initial idea, this time from Beatrice Lucas and Simon quotes. The seminar should be a contribution to be a visible, tangible network as a beginning to see each other better, which will step by step lead to recognize and to understand each other, which is a precondition for peaceful coexistence.